All right, now it's time for us to make the most of our coverage of the Alec Murdaugh murder trial. His only surviving son, Buster, made a moment for the jury today. Remember, the defense is now making a case in chief. Don't have to, but feel that they need to. What did Buster do? He described his dad's demeanor after the double murder of wife Maggie and son Paul. What did he say? How did it hit? What will it mean to the jury? We got all sides covered, but let's start with the moment.
Demeanor was, he was destroyed. He was heartbroken. I walked in the door and saw him and gave him a hug and just broken down.
Could he speak?
Not really.
Was he crying?
Yes, sir.
Son knows his father. Heartbroken dad, that's what you'd expect. Or heartless thief that the prosecution outlined before this case. Let's bring in the host of the Cup of Justice podcast, Eric Bland, high-profile trial attorney Mark Geragos, and one of the top jury consultants who handled the O.J. Simpson and Casey Anthony cases, Richard Gabriel. It's good to see you, Richard. I'm going to use you as the judge here. Bland, I'll start with you. Why did this moment, I'm going to start with Geragos. Why will this moment matter to the jury?
Well, like all cases, jurors look to the victims and take a cue from victims. It's one of the reasons why the whole victims' rights movement came about. It's one of the reasons why victims traditionally sit behind the prosecution. It's right out of their playbook. And look what happened. Here, in this case, the only survivor in that family is here, sitting behind his dad, the accused for this entire trial, and gets up there, testifies, and boy, if you are on Twitter for more than 30 seconds, you would have seen a lot of broken hearts, because all of the cheerleaders for the prosecution didn't know what to make of this, didn't understand the prosecution's tact that they took on this. And frankly, I'd actually, for once, I will support the prosecution. The idea that you're going to be vicious with this young witness, to me, is ludicrous. There was nothing else they could do. He was compelling and, I think, effective. And by the way, we don't know because we're not in the courtroom looking at those jurors, but it's hard to believe that anybody would listen to this and not think that this son knows his father.
Eric Bland, can you mitigate that argument?
Yes, I can, and I was disappointed about the prosecution not going into the fact that he didn't know anything about what happened on the night of the murder from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. They could have asked him very gently, without getting in his face and being abusive, but ask him, did you know that your father was at the kennels? Did he tell you otherwise? When did you learn that there was a Snapchat video at 7:45? Did your father ever tell you he changed his clothes? What did you think when it came out that your father stole $3.45 million from the woman you loved, Gloria Satterfield? Just in a very benign way, but to make it seem like that for this jury that he really didn't know his father, that 10%. Yes, Mark's totally correct. He is a victim, and they put him on because they wanted to show the jury that he still supports his father. However, they could have pointed out very strongly that he didn't know where Paul lived at the time of Paul's death. He didn't know that Paul had a third blackout gun, and he didn't know the color of Paul's shotgun. So there's a way to cross-examine him, and Mark knows that you can do it in a polite kind of way. You don't have to abuse him. You don't have to get in his face. But the state, I think, lost an opportunity, and Buster is a victim. I'm not saying that he's not. But the defense's witnesses are underwhelming. They had a doctor who should be a doctor on Green Acres, the coroner, on Friday, that was a joke, who talked about testing under armpits. And their catch-all expert this afternoon, he could play all 5 positions on an offensive line. He wasn't credentialed at all, and I think Mark would agree that they took it a little too far with his opinions.
All right, let's do it this way, though. Richard, I want to bring you in to kind of suss this out. We'll start with Eric's last point first, because I think it's easier to dispense with. Tell me if my experience with juries is wrong. Pedigrees are for lawyers. Qualifying experts are for lawyers. The juries sit back and listen and decide whether or not something makes sense. They don't get blown away from resumes that they often don't understand. First of all, how important is the expertise of the expert versus what comes out of their pie hole?
The expertise of an expert really is in making the jury the expert. That's where credibility really lies. For the most part, jurors want to make sense of it, as you said. They want to understand, what are the issues being looked at? How did you look at it? What was the process that you went through? The best expert is the one that actually makes the jury expert and makes them feel like they understand the science behind it.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.